Okay, here we are. This is part two, the basic answers in your basic ethics book, the second edition. We're looking at chapter 8, which is the second half of the book, ethical intuition. We're starting on, these are your normative theories. So the book has, I think, 6 of them. And we're going to go ahead and use egoism as one of your normative theories. But ethical intuitionism is the first normative theory presented in the book as such. So that's what we're doing. Ethical intuitionism, it starts on page 86. It's a simple theory that's justifying the immediate grasping of self-evident ethical truths. And we're going to look at what that means. Ethical intuition holds that basic moral propositions are self-evident. So what we're going to look at here are some maxims, some moral propositions. They're also called adages or aphorisms. Some might even call them proverbs. But before we get to some of them, we're going to see how people use intuition. God gave women intuition and femininity. Farrah Fawcett said, used properly, the combination easily jumbles the brain of any man I've ever met. Some women may understand that very well, so we will go on. We used this before. How come when you're right it's female intuition and when I'm right it's just dumb luck? Some people might say this is true, but intuition has a sense of understanding without fully being explained, or maybe without even any explanation. We're going to use intuitionism as a normative theory. It's your first instinct, and it's usually right. I say this on tests and quizzes all the time. Don't second guess yourself. Write down the first thing that comes to your mind. That is your intuitive answer, and it usually is right. I've recognized over the last 10 years of my teaching that people who scratch and change and all their answers, the first answer was the right one. So stick to it. Here's another one. If something doesn't feel right, it probably just isn't. Listen to your intuition. Girls, you've probably heard that on dates, or maybe a sense of how you feel about somebody. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know that maybe you just shouldn't trust them. All of us have felt that. Some people, there's just something about them. It's your intuition, and we need to listen to it. The earliest writings on value come from in the form of maxims or aphorisms that are accepted directly without logical argument. They are culturally accepted norms. Okay, they're kind of self-evident truths. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We've heard that in our Constitution, right? Or in a Declaration of Independence. So that was great. I don't know if I can change this, but here's one. Fools multiply folly. If you can read these things, Benjamin Franklin said that. Who is stronger? I'm not going to be able to read it. Bummer. Who is strong? He who can conquer his bad habits. That's also by Benjamin Franklin. I'm sorry about these things are just not working quite the way I thought. So I'm going to just laugh at them and we'll go on. Who is stronger? Oh, that's the one I've already asked. Oh, hunger makes the best seasoning. Now, I don't know that Benjamin Franklin ever said that, but that's just one I remember hearing. So hopefully we'll go on. Here's one that's by Benjamin Franklin. It's said in a couple different ways. It's called "A Stitch in Time Saves Nine." So baseball players might understand this in the sense of having to stitch up some pants, rips in the maybe in the crotch, or rips in the knees. If you stitch it early, you won't need a whole bunch of stitches. You just need one or two. You can get it, or it saves time, because if you wait until you rip it totally out, then you have to, this is back in the day when they didn't have the sewing machines like we do today, and clothing wasn't as cheap. So at any rate, that's what those were about. But those are just short little quips of proverbs, or maxims of the day. Here's a couple more. There's one, finally read through it. Who is strong? Who can conquer his bad habits? I just need to figure out better PowerPoints. Everybody is ignorant, just on different subjects. Will Rogers said that. That is very true. I think you can see that. And you're immediately grasping these things. Maybe this stitch in time saves 9. I had to explain, and we'll understand what all this means a little better through this video. Never go up against a Sicilian when death is on the line. You ever heard that? That's from The Princess Bride. Or never get involved in a land war in Asia. I don't know why these are mixing up, but I can't change it now. But at any rate, I thought they would work better. Never find your delight in another's misfortune. This is written by a 1st century Roman writer. He's a Roman Syrian called Publilius. Publilius. Not sure how to pronounce it. At any rate, that's one of his sayings. Stealing is wrong. Yeah, pretty straightforward. This is more of a commandment, but Aristotle used the word endoxa. So I gave you the Greek spelling here. That's what this is right here. This is the Greek spelling. You can find that spelling in all of your Word documents when you go down, click down, for Arial or Gardova or whatever, Times New Roman. Go on down to symbol. Well, symbol is the actual Greek lettering, and that's what this is. But what it means, the idea behind it, is it's the common opinion of what's moral. Hey, it is, most of people think that it's not right to steal, or it's wrong to lie. It's a common opinion that, hey, it isn't moral to break in and take things from other people. Sort of thing. It's not moral to kill. So these are common opinions, and that's what endoxa. Aristotle talked about it, so we use it. And it was in the book. But Intuitionism has been used for a long time. It's one of the most unacknowledged normative theories, and in fact, I think the new book I'm going to be using next year doesn't even have it in there. But René Descartes is not Descartes, it's René Descartes. He's French. He used Intuitionism. Thomas Reid, G.E. Moore, John Rawls. We'll use some G.E. Moore stuff. John Rawls is a game player, and he used a lot. I throw the names out because you're going to need one for the final. What I'll use in the final is René Descartes. So need to remember that for your quiz and for your final. Intuitionism is a theory that justifies the immediate grasping of self-evident ethical truths. What we don't want to forget, we're talking about ethical truths here, because we're going to get bogged down in what's immediately grasping mean and self-evident, and how do we grasp the truth and those sort of things. But what we're talking about, not the truths of things, of nature, or of colors, or of likings and dislikings. But what we're going to be looking at are ethical truths, and we need to remember to apply it that way when we're talking about intuition. Intuitively, you may know that this is going to be a bad day. Or intuitively, you may think that that person's going to have a wreck. Or or intuitively feel like, ugh, I just gonna dread, whatever you're getting ready to do, or I'm not gonna like that movie. But the way we're using it here, it needs to be applied to ethical situations and ethical truths. And on the top of page 88, there is a logical program set forth. It's an argument. It's called a syllogistic argument. They use it in logic a lot, and have used these some in ethics as well. It's a philosophy class. So this is basically it. X is a descriptive statement. Now make a descriptive statement about humanity and mortality. Maybe humanity is only to be lived for a short time, or humans only live, to be 70 years old, or humans only live to be 80 or something. We recognize we all have an end. Everyone dies. But those are descriptive statements. No one that we know of a lady that is living right now. She's 104. But there's not too many of those people. Humans are mortal. There's an end. X is mortal. Socrates is human. Therefore, what would be the result? Here we go. Well, I don't know how I did this before. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I wanted to use a pointer, but I can't seem to get it to work. But the biggest circle is the immortal. And so you got a lot of small circles on your right that you can fill in the blanks. What those are, those could be insects, they could be pets, they could be giraffes or elephants. It could be turtles. Turtles may be one of the longest living things that we have on Earth. I don't know. But humans are mortal. And Socrates and you, and maybe there'd be some other circles in the humans. But since that circle's inside that circle is inside that circle, Socrates is not only human, he's also mortal. But the other little circles, Intuitionism, how do we grasp truth? Through social norms and contact with truth itself. This can be on a personal basis. The contact with truth may just, may have grown up and learned it. And some people will say you intuitively grasp things, but when you have been taught those things, I'm not sure that's intuition. That's the challenge of this as a normative theory, is that to be able to prove that everyone intuitively knows these things, because we don't all intuitively know the same things. We've been taught differently from our families, from the different culture we live in, and the different various people that have given us instruction through the years. So intuition is a little cloudy for some, and they don't like it. And to grasp, you have to think, discuss, insert something into a system maybe, or plug it into a formula, take time to figure it out, etc. You have to think about it. Well, then it is not immediately grasped. It's through mediation. And we're going to talk about the difference here. Mediate is when you have to go through a medium. And a medium would be through the discussion that I mentioned, some formula. You have to think through it. That's mediation. You may have a mediation services if you're going through a divorce court or for a custody battle. There'll be people mediating on behalf of the child or on behalf of a certain parent that may be incapable to talk because they're in a traffic accident, but so the other person wants full custody, and so there'll be all sorts of extenuating circumstances that might cause mediation. But I want you to understand mediation is that time when you have to work through the problem, think through it, and if you have to do that, it's not immediately grasped. The only time it's immediately grasped is when you're not going through this mediation of whatever that might be, and it's just quickly understood. That's called immediately grasped. That's what intuition is about. If it's anything more than that, then it's not intuition or intuitionism. So in this normative theory right now in our classroom, you can imagine maybe we would sit down and I would have you talk about different things that are mediated and things that you just immediately know. What we can't do is use examples of taste and personal preference. I immediately know if I like certain cars. I immediately know if I like certain foods or maybe clothing. But we're applying these to ethical situations, to moral behaviors. So those things can't be used in this discussion if we were to have it, to break out into groups. You're not going to break out into groups. I'm not giving you an assignment, but it might be worth thinking about, what's the difference between immediate and mediating or immediate? There is a distinctive difference, and you'll need to know them for the quiz. Like a mediator, mediate knowledge takes a medium of some sort to transmit the information, like a scientific information, some sort of logical or mathematical theory, or some mode of mediation. So we use media in the classroom. You're using media right now. YouTube is being used as the media source, and your monitor or maybe your phone or some other item that you're getting this information through. And so that's not immediate. You're going through media, and media is kind of the transport, if you will, of the information you are receiving and the knowledge you are gaining. To have immediate grasping is that you're bypassing all that, and it's just like snap, I got it, yeah, this is it, nailed it, sort of thing. But immediate takes time. Immediate is X possesses property F. What property does the TV monitor have? Now, what I would be talking about is a form of different properties that we would have maybe in the classroom or where you're sitting right now. Maybe the thing you're looking through is surrounded by a casing that's probably black, or it could be gray or pink or something else, or white. But what kind of properties do they possess? So the question is, and then you're thinking through this, and so this means it's not immediate, it's through a mediation. And what we get to is the fact that just because everything's black, that doesn't make it a casing. Yours might be, it might be something else. Just because something black doesn't make it a tire, for instance. Most tires are black on cars, on motorcycles, on bicycles, on tractors. But if something's black, you don't assume it's a tire, because there's more than just color that makes up the property. In fact, color isn't even a property. So at any rate, but let's go on. Are all F things monitors? No. If we know they're colored, color isn't a property. It is a description. It's kind of a property. It helps us describe things. All the point of this is to have you think through, and if we're thinking through, we're mediating. And if it's mediating, then it is not intuition. Okay, that's what it boils down to. Aristotle said in his book, he had a book named Posterior Analytics, the second. He did two of these books. The apprehension of thatness precedes our knowledge of whatness. And he said this is considered intuitionism. Now, the difference between thatness and whatness is pretty simple, actually. Have you ever been something you saw out of this kind of your peripheral vision? It's something that you just kind of saw and it made you twitch or it made you think to look and turn real quick. You didn't know what it was, but you knew something was there. That's called the thatness. When you know the full property of it, then you know it's whatness. But when you know just something is there, it's that thing. It is that item, but man, you just can't quite describe it. You don't know what it is. But once you figure out the whatness, then that's mediated usually, the whatness is. But the thatness, you just know it's there. It's right there. If this makes sense to you, um, I hope it does, but Aristotle talked about the thatness precedes our understanding or our knowledge of the whatness of anything. Let's say you have an 8-year-old sister or a 10-year-old somebody, or for that matter, someone that has never seen a computer before. They would say, "What's that?" Or some other item, because they see it's a that, but they have no clue what it is. Then you proceed to tell them, you're mediating the information, and then it becomes the whatness of that thing. Then they understand what it is. The thatness comes before the whatness. The thatness part is intuitionism. Kant, this is the big-headed guy here in the left. His name is Immanuel Kant. We'll get to know him better throughout this semester. By the end of it, you'll know who he is. I'm going to talk about him just a little bit today because he talks about two things being grasped immediately. And people get these. He recognizes, if you read one of the psychological essays or articles I had you read about kids and understanding morals, babies, with the items that they were watching. They understood two things, and kids, and they say adults understand these two things naturally without any explanation, and they are time and space. Now, they don't know time like the different kids don't understand time like seconds and minutes and days, years and months. So those don't mean a whole lot, but they understand one thing is after another. And space, they know things that are out there. They can kind of touch them and feel them. These things are grasped and understood without much explanation, time and space. This is anyway Kant's, K-A-N-T, his understanding of grasping time and space. And it's on your quiz, so remember them. Can we call something or have something good intuitively? It's a big question. Now, there's several things that will come up. Can we call chocolate good? Or can we call broccoli? I would like you to understand and recognize that these different things that are coming up, a lot of people say they're good. In fact, they might say they're really, really good. I can't live without education or guns or something. But we also recognize they are something that is personal, and not everyone would call them good. In fact, some people would say guns are not good, or sex is terrible, or Dr. Pepper is yucky. Stereotypes probably aren't all that good, but they do help us formulate and put people in groups, and we understand things. The question is, are these intuitive? I'm going to leave that as an open question for you. Immanuel Kant was born on April 22nd, 1722. You don't need to know his dates. I don't care about dates for this class, but I want you to understand he lived in the 1700s during the time of the Revolutionary War of our country. He was one of the earliest exponents of the idea that perpetual peace could be secured through universal democracy and international cooperation. And he believed that this peace would eventually be the outcome of history, of mankind, although isn't necessarily planned. I don't know what you think of that, but that's interesting. But he was a political thinker, a philosopher, a religious thinker. He was all over the board. And he also had some personal, emotional issues. But a lot of people use him in philosophy. Immanuel Kant. He was an intuitionist, but a deontologist. And we'll learn about that another time. If we are to grasp any kind of truth about something, and if it is not immediate, and we have to examine it through some sort of system to mediate our knowledge by intellectual power of the mind, then it's not intuitionism. Grasping of truth needs to be clear and distinct. It needs to be immediate to be intuitionism. Is some connection of grasping with forceful vividness. This is what the book says. It is grasped clearly, and if it is apprehended as a unique proposition with recognizable boundaries, then it is distinct. You need to understand these two factors. Intuitionism needs grasped clearly and distinctly. That's part of the understanding of intuitionism. René Descartes would say, I think, therefore I am. The Latin part is cogito ergo sum. It's roughly translated into the English as I think, therefore I am. And he says that's intuitive. Hey, we just kind of know that. The next part of the video is going to be talking about the two levels of intuitionism, level 1 and level 2. And so this is the end of the first part of intuitionism.